What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We've talked about the Alberta Next panel here on the channel. We've discussed Danielle Smith making an attempt, at least, to lower the threshold for votes to host a referendum to allow Albertans to have a voice in this province. I applaud her efforts. I applaud her efforts with the Alberta Next panel, especially as we covered recently her interest in discussing a possible provincial Alberta police force and ditching the RCMP. Danielle is quickly showing that those who were skeptical of her promises, that they just disappeared, that she was never going to address them, are now starting to see that, hey, they're still on the table, and we're going to hear what Albertans have to say, because unlike other premiers, unlike the federal government, Danielle wants to hear from hardworking Albertans who pay into our tax system what they want to be on the hook for, what they believe this province needs moving forward. With that being said, there are going to be bad actors and bad apples along the way that try to derail any possible talk of a referendum ballot, of a independence movement, if you will. One of those people who recently won a by-election is none other than former Calgary shill and worm Naheed Nenit. Now, he just won his seat in the Alberta legislature, but immediately comes out with the attacks, because this is all he can do. He doesn't run on policy, he runs on attacks. What is it he said during his campaign videos? I don't start fights, I win them, or something along those lines. Whatever it was, forgive me for misquoting it. I don't listen to a word that comes out of this guy's mouth. It's just rhetoric. The guy loves drama. He doesn't want to do anything or create policy. He just wants to judge other people's policies. And then when he gets into office, spend. I want to go over what he has to say and why this is a problem for Albertans. And why it's a problem for him at the same time. Because there's a lot of hypocrisy here. He says Albertans should ask the Premier why she is wasting public dollars on this separatist pet project when there are so many pressing issues that need to be dealt with. Read my full statement regarding the Alberta Next panel surveys below. So essentially what he's saying here, and we will go through the letter, is Naheed Nenit is saying, why is Danielle Smith wasting public tax dollars listening to her constituents? The government should know what the people want. The government should spend as they see according to plan, and just tell the taxpayers, shut up and give us your money. He thinks that a premier who wants to hear what her constituents that gave her a mandate have to say is a waste of tax dollars. So here we go. The UCP government surveys aren't about creating new jobs, bringing back investment, lowering the cost of utilities and car insurance, making our streets safer, reducing wait times in our overcrowded ERs, getting the teachers we need to stop or stopping coal mining in the Rockies. Well, I haven't heard Naheed Nenit mention a single thing about any of that. He's simply done finger pointing ever since he showed up on the scene. He says instead they've rolled out a separatist do-nothing panel that will cause serious damage to our economy and Alberta's reputation as a place to invest. I hate to break it to Naheed Nenit, but investors left Canada and Alberta a long time ago because of Liberals and because of Jagmeet Singh, because of the party that has non-party status that he now represents. They didn't leave because of better policy or for listening to constituents. They left because the government of Canada made it impossible to invest in this country. They're throwing money away, more than our taxpayers. He says this whole exercise is especially bad for every Albertan relying on their Canada pension plan pensions. Albertans do not want the UCP government to gamble with their retirement savings, yet Danielle keeps pushing for that scheme. Now, first off, if we're talking about an Alberta pension plan, there were actually many reasons that was advantageous for Albertans to get into, especially when you look at how much people getting pensions actually are paid versus what Danielle wanted to do for Albertans. Hopefully that will all be a part of Alberta Next panel. But he says here, when put on a ballot, separatism couldn't even crack 18% this week. That's a big load of crap. Albertans should ask why the Premier is wasting even more money on this separatist pet project of hers when there are real issues that need to be dealt with. She's only doing this panel to save her skin after her disastrous results in these by-elections. There were no disastrous results. 2 NDPs won, but they ran in very safe NDP ridings in Edmonton. Edmonton is a very orange town. This is where I say Nenshi he's hot air. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he just throws out whatever he wants to. You'll notice he keeps using the word separatist. And this is where we have to watch the shenanigans. He's going to be painting a picture of Albertans, just like Jason Kenney, that we're all terrible people. We're all, what is it he called people who were protesting during COVID lockdowns? White nationalists who don't deserve to eat. Yes, folks, he actually said that. He goes on to say the Danielle Smith Do Nothing panel is solely about her own political agenda and not the interests of Albertans. I beg to differ. She's listening to them. Even more worrisome, it's full of extremist language that has no place in our province. Albertans demand better from the UCP government. I think woke leftards are demanding better from the government, and that's why they voted for Naheed Nenshi. People love their communism. They love their Marxism. At least the immigrants. Look, what's funny about this letter and the hypocrisy is that if Naheed Nenshi was so concerned that Alberta didn't have the staying power to talk about actual independence, he'd just let it fizzle off and die. If he was really convinced that it was only 18% of Albertans that were interested in discussing independence, well, he'd just let it die on the table, because after all, if you're running against Danielle Smith, you want her to fail. You would want that to end in a steaming pile of rubble so that you can call it out when it comes time to run in the election, to say, look at all the wasted tax dollars. Maybe somebody should ask Naheed Nenshi where all the wasted tax dollars went in Calgary for the Green Line LRT. That's still not 1 kilometer of track has been built, yet Calgarians are paying through the nose on taxes for all the money wasted on that as they still try to get that pipe dream out of the ground. Maybe somebody should go to Naheed Nenshi and ask him about the millions of dollars he wasted running an Olympic committee panel when he was very convinced that Calgary needed another Olympic Games, and at the 11th hour said, nah, let's just get out of it. We're just going to pull out. Here goes millions of dollars back onto the taxpayer. Those are the reasons he didn't run again to be mayor of Calgary. It's because he knew he wouldn't get elected. He wouldn't get voted in. The people had had enough. For a guy who likes to point the finger, which, by the way, we also pointed out in a video last week, how he claimed that the city of Calgary's problems are somehow Danielle Smith's, because when he was mayor, these things didn't happen. It's funny, Danielle Smith's never been the mayor of Calgary. Nenshi is trying to distract his uneducated voters into hating Danielle Smith for listening to her constituents. He knows that there is a real push for independence in this province. He knows that there is more than 18% support for independence in this province. And he knows that if Danielle were to actually tour the province listening to the opinions of Albertans, well, God forbid, people may in fact learn a thing or two in the government about what Albertans are expecting moving forward. I think it's healthy for the government to know what their constituents think. As it comes over the summer and we talk about these distractions, keep in mind, Thomas Lakazuk put forward an early petition, and a lot of people are talking about this petition saying, hey, is this petition going to garner its signatures? What are we seeing from APP? How come we haven't heard anything from APP recently? Again, we're still waiting for Bill 54 to become law. As soon as that happens, APP can submit their petition for a yes question on a referendum ballot. But I wanted to get into this information from Keith Wilson while we're talking about this, just so people know where this is at. And anybody who's worried about Thomas Lakazuk can breathe a sigh of relief. Keith goes on to say, Bill 54 has not yet been proclaimed. Any petition for a constitutional referendum filed to date, meaning Thomas Lakazuk's, which he paid, I believe it was $500 to file, would have to meet the high threshold of 600,000 signatures collected in 90 days from at least 2/3 of Alberta's 87 electoral divisions, i.e. 58 divisions. Lakazuk can't achieve that, even if his question is valid. Alberta Prosperity Project will be proceeding under the new rules with the lower threshold. So their placeholder was made with APP so that once they file for their question to be considered by Elections Alberta, They meet the threshold of, I believe it's 177,000 signatures versus the 600,000. Thomas Lacazette, who filed his, has to get 600,000. That doesn't change. If Bill 54 comes in, it doesn't all of a sudden change that he only needs 177,000 signatures. He would still need his 600,000. You've got David Parker here saying the NDP, through their surrogate Thomas Lacazette, have filed 5 referendum questions. According to Elections Alberta, these are considered in order of their submission. This means APP will not be the organization collecting signatures. That's a big pile of BS. So no matter what you hear moving forward, Thomas Lacazette needs 600,000 signatures. If his question is validated, he'll have 90 days to collect them. He's not going to get them. Thomas Lacazette will not be shutting down a vote on Alberta independence. Keep in mind also with the Alberta Next panels, Danielle has said that they will be touring the province to hear what Albertans have to say. I want to encourage each and every Albertan, if one of these panels hits in your area, and again, I will be informing people on this channel in a further video where those dates are and at what locations, you should make it your absolute priority to go there and talk nothing but independence and a referendum ballot on a yes question for independence in Alberta. This could also trigger a question to be on a ballot. As Danielle has said, the more popular topics will be introduced into a ballot for a 2026 question, meaning provincial police force, Alberta pension plan, an honest question on a ballot to leave Canada. If Danielle hears from the majority of her province that that's where they stand, she's comfortable, at least to my knowledge from what she has explained, putting it on a ballot for Albertans to really go to the table with that question. This channel will make sure that throughout the summer, folks, I keep you guys straight down to the tracks on any information coming out about Alberta independence, any news that's coming forward. Again, things are going to heat up, no pun intended, over the summer. You're going to see a lot of distractions coming out, a lot of filibuster from Naheed Nenshi and the NDPs. Don't buy into the hype. Again, this is the unofficial source for not only the APP, but all news Alberta independence. Come back to the channel. Make sure, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to address those in our future videos. Let me know what you guys think. You think Nenshi has a finger on the pulse? Do you think he's just blowing smoke out his butthole? Let me know what you think down below if it's your first time here. Also, let me know, by the way, if you think that Danielle's touring with the Alberta Next panel is a waste of taxpayer dollars, as Nenshi claims. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on your bell for all notifications so you never miss a video whenever it drops here on the channel. Join me each and every Friday for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show, where I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A outside of making these videos. I look forward to chatting with you guys each and every Friday night and hearing what you have to say, but I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.